Hello and welcome to Trad Jazz Today. Dan Zeilinger has been a world-traveling trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of his most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at the Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials around the world. Dan has met many people during his career and has spent many hours on and off stage with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on weekends with their friends. They all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, Dan will be sharing them with you. Now, Dan Zeilinger.
I'm all set.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry Wright. And if you haven't seen the Larry Wright interview number 1, I urge you to turn this off and go watch it now, because we're not going to backtrack on any old information, and we're going to be all anew today.
Well, I understand that there are some people who have tuned into that one.
There have been.
I do have a theory on that. I think it's probably a misunderstanding. People are looking for Larry Wright,
The basketball player.
the young black African-American who plays bucket drums in the subways of New York City.
That's true. That's true.
So if those are the people that are coming to look for him here, I'm sorry.
Hey, you can play buckets with the best of them. But if we're truly going to be episodic, when last we spoke, there was a woman undressing in front of the bandstand.
That was number 6. I'm going to have to refer to my paper here because we got a lot to cover here. So
Excellent.
if that's okay with you, okay. Well, to move on, that was number 6 out of 54, and I'm going to do this because that's the only thing I have going for me.
I think it's wonderful.
The fact that I have actually played with 54 bands as a regular member in my entire life here.
How many have you played with as an irregular member?
Oh, those are uncountable and unmentionable.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's I've been very fortunate to be able to do music all my life in different forms, and especially I've been able to do a lot of musics that I have a passion for, which at the top of the list is Dixieland and swing and ragtime and that type. So anyway, we're moving on right now. This is number 7, and it's a place called Zuby's Gilded Cage. It was in Newport Beach, and the guy was the same guy who ran Zuby's Pizza Parlor, and he had a place next door to him, and he wanted to have bands. So he figured he could have 3 bands a week. Oh, golly. So this was Zuby's Gilded Cage. And he asked Vince Saunders to put in the South Frisco Jazz Band for 1 night a week. He asked me for 2. And the band that I put in, I can't remember the name of the thing, but I was the leader and played banjo on it. And then for another night, I played cornet and alto sax. I was a leader for a band that I couldn't think of a name, so I called it the Salvation Navy Band. And then Ted Duplant. You remember Ted Duplant?
Actually, I've got him lined up for an interview.
Oh, golly. Well, I'll be looking forward to that, so I'll just wait.
Okay.
So Ted Duplant he put in a band at the Handlebar Saloon in Pasadena, right close to the ice house up there. And he put in a band he called the Stomp Aces. I played alto sax with that. And while I was doing this kind of stuff, I had occasion to play with Bob Raggio, the washboard player who played with the South Frisco Jazz Band on a regular basis. He was also playing washboard at Disneyland.
At the class of 27.
Well, you're getting ahead of me. Don't get ahead of me because we've got a lot to do here.
Okay.
So we have Bob was also playing in the Banjo Kings. And the Banjo Kings was a group at Disneyland. They were out there with being led by Sonny Helmer and a bunch of other people there. And I was good friends with him, but I didn't play an awful lot with him. And strangely enough, he had a problem. He had one of these carpal tunnel type of things with the hands. And so he ended up having to go through surgery. Well, he called me up and says, "Hey, Larry, would you like to play for me out at Disneyland?" Now, he's never heard me on washboard. So I figure I'm overqualified. And he says, "Yeah, just show up and we'll go through all of the costumes and everything else, and you're going to play with the Banjo Kings." So I went out there, and I go out there and I'm playing the washboard, which is one of the stand-up types, similar to the way that Ward Kimball played with the Firehouse Five. It goes in between you and you play like this. Very, very happening type of thing, a small washboard. And I'm standing there and I'm playing with Sonny Helmer and John Reynolds. And I'm playing with Westy Westenhofer and another guy. And I'm thinking, I'm getting the same amount of money as these guys. So I go home and I paint Selmer on my washboard just to give it panache and to let them know that I'm serious about this thing. So I played with them for quite a while. And then they decided, Disneyland wanted to put the Banjo Kings into the Golden Horseshoe for the summer at night. And that was a show called The Class of 1927. And I worked with them on a basis, a substitute basis, basically. That's where I met Banu Gibson and played with her in the thing there. And actually, I wrote and directed a film that was used for the introduction to the stage show in Disneyland. That was kind of fun. So I was very much involved in what was going on. And so I was in a position to find out that since they were going into the Golden Horseshoe, there needed to be a Banjo Kings out in the park. And so I found out that there was going to be an audition for these things. So I decided, okay, well, I know what to do. I'll put together a band, and I did. And the band was it had basically 3 banjos, and Paul Waltz played bass sax, I played soprano saxophone. And we went to the audition for this thing. And your younger viewers who might wonder how on earth do you do that, because I've had people ask me, how do I get into Disneyland? Well, it's a lot different than it was, but at that time we went in and had an audition with this band. We were supposed to impress a group of people who were involved in the higher ups of Disneyland Entertainment, I should say. And so we went to the Musicians Union in local 7, Santa Ana, and the head of the entertainment, Sonny Anderson, was sitting at a table, and he was watching the band with a couple of other people, watching all of the auditions being taking place on this stage that was way over there. You see it? There it is. And they were over there, sitting there. And I'm bringing this up because there was a little bit of a misconception, and I wanted to clear it up. So we were actually scheduled for last on this thing, and we watched about 4 other bands audition for these people, and they're up on the stage there, and they're going, "Hey, hey," and they were not impressing Sonny Anderson and the rest of the people up there at all. So we finally get to the end of the auditions, and we're the very last people up there. And I look at what was going on. Didn't take real, this is not rocket surgery, we really needed to impress them down there. And so we get up on the stage there, and Sonny says, "Okay, you guys ready to go?" And I said, "No, hold on a minute." And we all en masse run down and just attack them. We're standing on the other side of this table. It was like a cafeteria table. They're sitting on one side, we're right on the other, in their faces. And we start our audition. And Sonny Anderson had the biggest smile you can imagine because he knew we were playing to him. And this is something that I learned very quickly in playing at Disneyland. Anybody who plays at any of the theme parks realizes you can't just stand up there and play an instrument. You've got to sell it and entertain. And so none of the others were doing that. So I came down with my band and tried to just knock the socks off of them. And apparently we did, because after we finished, Sonny said, he pointed to me and he says, stick a little bit, will you? And so I did. And he says, after everyone was gone, he says, you've got it. I said, what do you mean? He says, you made the cut. You're the band that we want to put in, with one exception. And I said, what is that? And he says, well, the 5-string banjo player. Now, I had 2 tenor banjo players and a 5-string, and this kid was unbelievable. He could play in any key, which 5-string players do not play in. They play in about 3 keys. And this kid could play anything. Unbelievably good. And it added such a tremendous feel to this whole thing. And I really enjoyed having him do that. It was wonderful, except that he had the personality of a lawyer on a wet day. It was awful. And I said, no, get rid of the kid. So I got rid of the kid and hired Lance McLean, who was playing plectrum banjo. The other banjo player that also played cornet on occasion was a guy named Jimmy Peel. And I said to Anderson, well, I've got something to tell you too. I'm afraid I kind of lied about this young kid, Howard Alden, on the tenor banjo. I said, he's actually only 17 years old. And Sonny looked at me and said, no, he isn't. He's 18. I said, you sure that's okay? And he says, when I say he's 18, he's 18. You got it? I won't take the band without him, So we played for about 3 years out there.
Howard played a little washboard too, right?
He played a little washboard. Yes, he did. It was about this big. And it was.
He didn't look that small with him, but
it was amazing, because Howard, for all of you who, I can't imagine anybody watching this doesn't know that Howard is the premier guitar player, and he also plays banjo in a style that no one else plays. He plays like Joe Pass on the banjo, very unusual, excellent stuff. And he played that well when he was 17 years old. So he
18.
He was, I'm sorry, yes, 18. So anyway, we really had a time of it, and we played there for 3 years. So I was the one making all of the contacts with Sonny Anderson, and there was nobody else. It was all me.
well, thank goodness we have that one video that's circulating on the YouTube of that group.
That is very
nice
funny.
to see.
It was a film, 16 millimeter film that was done to show all of the entertainment that was being done at Walt Disneyland and Disney World in 1977. And they covered everybody. And I know a lot of people in those different bands, but they would stand in front of each band and do about 3 songs. And the song that they decided to put into this recording had Howard Alden, the world's greatest string player, on washboard. So
I was surprised they had so many Hawaiian acts and Latin acts. In
all
77.
sorts of stuff. You can't believe how much was going on there. It was a different time. When I played out there, started playing at Disneyland. I don't know if you've had this experience. Almost everybody's had it. You know, you play someplace and everybody you know decides to give you stuff that's Disney or, you know, Snoopy or whatever the places that you're playing there. They love to give you stuff that you could get, you know,
Right, at a discount.
at a discount, you know, and they give it to you because they figure, well, he's playing at a Disneyland, he's got to have Mickey Mouse socks, you know. So he continues. This was going on all the time when I was playing there, and it was really you got to the point of where you're saying, you know, I don't really need this stuff. However, there is one particular thing that I do treasure. This is something that my mom found for me, and I got to say that of all the things that were given to me as far as Disney stuff, this means more than anything else to me.
Wow, dude. Oh my word.
Yes, that's your word. Yes, it is. Go back there, Donald. Okay. So it's
I'm not sure that was actually legally licensed.
No, it wasn't. It has nothing to do with Walt Disney, but it means the world to me because it encapsulates the grotesqueness of my job out at Disneyland. There you go. That's
It looks like he has a giant piece of candy corn in his face.
it really does, doesn't it? There you go. Okay. Well, moving on.
Wait a minute. What would that duck sound like if he could talk?
Probably like a strangled duck.
Ah,
Okay. So continuing on, I played with Phase 5 out at Busch Gardens in Reseda.
how long did you last at Disney?
3 years. Howard kind of forgot that we were there for 3 years.
Okay.
We were permanent part-time, which means we were out there for the summers, Easter, Christmas, and all the way to New Year's.
Without benefits, yes.
Yeah. Hey, we weren't sick. That's obvious. Okay. Phase 5 was named after Rick Fay. Clever, huh? Phase
I like it.
5. And that was at Busch Gardens back when there was a Busch Gardens out there that you could see from the freeway. I was playing with people like Dan Comans and Dan Barrett, Paul Woltz. I was playing a number of jobs off and on at South Coast Village because I put the South Coast Village Stompers in there, mainly because I went to school with the fellow who was doing the catalog for South Coast Village and South Coast Plaza. And so he knew that I played music and he would get me the jobs out there. And it was a seasonal thing, obviously. I helped do the photography for the Christmas catalog there. One thing that people might be interested in is that Paul Woltz's sister,
Gina, yeah.
Paul Woltz and Randy, her name was Gina Woltz, lovely, lovely gal, and she played washboard, but she had a problem with it all the time because she had extremely long fingernails. And this was before people started playing whisks or any kind of thing like that. They would actually play with thimbles on their fingers, and she just could not keep the thimble would end up not even going on to the fleshy part of her finger. And so she had Jeff Beaumont, who was a master mechanic. He took brass tubing and soldered it to the thimbles, and she could wear the brass would come all the way up to the first joint, and then she'd have the thimbles out there, and she could play these things without it falling off and without it having a problem. So any of you guys, any of you women that want to do that kind of thing and not have to sacrifice your fingernails for the music, you might consider that, because it lasted a long time for her, and she did excellent playing.
Call Jeff.
Okay. I played with the Hot Frogs Jumping Jazz Band. Okay. Then there was a group that was put together by a fellow named Stan Chapman, who actually was connected with well, at that time it was Chapman College. It's Chapman University now, but he goes way back in Orange County. And it was called the British Connection. And they called it that because it was very close to the type of English jazz, trad jazz that was being played at that time. And it had people like Mike Fay playing, Ron Going, Vic Loring, those types of moldy fig players. And at different times, they played the drums, cornet, and alto sax with that group. Then there was a really, really mediocre group called the New Milenberg Chamber Ensemble. I played piano with that, and that's actually where I met Ted Thomas, who was Frank Thomas, the piano player's son. And I actually met him when we went to Sacramento and played with this horrible, it's just one horrible band.
Was it his band?
It was Ralph Ball.
Okay.
The tuba player who played like 2 songs on the recordings with the Firehouse Five and used to sub for them occasionally. It was his band. And no. Okay, now the South Frisco Jazz Band started out in the 60s, and it wasn't the same band that people know about today. It had some great players, including Ray Ronnie and Ron Ortman and Frank DeMond and all sorts of people that you may not have heard of that were a little bit more moldy fig. And so the South Frisco were made up of different reiterations all the way until they finally eventually got to the kind of band that Vince Saunders always wanted to do, which was a 2-cornet band and doing the festivals. That's maybe where all of you might know of them. But at the early days, we had a lot of the same people. It had Vince Saunders was the leader, of course. Dan Comans, Robbie Rhodes, Bob Raggio, Mike Baird, and they got a steady gig right across from the Los Alamitos racetrack, a place called the Starting Gate, which the place is still there. The racetrack is still there, and it was a steady gig, and Vince asked me to play alto sax on that thing because they didn't have a trombone player that would be able to do this thing. And so I had been messing around on the trombone, and I said, Vince, how about if I do that? And he goes, oh, Larry, not that I don't have faith in you, but no. And I said, oh, well, tell you what, let me do a set. I'll play a set, and if you don't like it, I'll go back and play alto sax. And so we'll have two reeds in the band with Mike Baird and myself, and then we'll continue on like that. And we did that. And after the first set, Vince looked at me and he says, no question, Larry, you're on trombone. And so from then on, for at least about 2 years, I was playing trombone with the South Frisco Jazz Band. And it was an interesting thing because I was playing some festivals. And I remember there was one festival that I played with them. Leon Oakley was added to the band for this. And so I was playing trombone with them for the Three Rivers Jazz Band Festival. And so I had a penchant in those days of wearing hats. And so my mother had, she was in the process of finding, to going all around the world. And so she was bringing me back stuff like grotesque Donald Ducks and things like that, And so she brought back something. I don't know what country it was from. I think it might have been the Grand Duchy of Malaria or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, and so I brought this hat back to Three Rivers, and I thought I'd wear it all through the festival. And this is the hat that she brought back. Isn't that cool? I think it's kind of a European style hat.
It made famous by the movie Elf now.
There you go. Now, the upshot to that whole thing was that I started wearing this hat, and the South Frisco was on after George Probert's band. And Probert comes over and he says, "Thanks, man." And I said, "You like the hat, George?" He says, "Yeah, let me see it." So I hand him the hat, and he puts it on and doesn't take it off. The entire weekend, he wore this hat. And I only got it back like 2 months later when we ran into each other. So that was George Probert, you know. At one time, I had a great relationship with him. Hal Smith's Down Home Jazz Band was a band that was first put together for recording purposes. And then Hal got different gigs for it, and it lasted over 2 months because if I didn't mention it before, my criteria is that I had to have been a regular member of a band for at least 2 months. A lot of times it lasted for years, you know, in these different bands. But Hal Smith's Down Home Jazz Band, I played clarinet, and it had people like Chris Tile and Bob Schultz, you know, and all sorts of other people who were just excellent players on that. Then I went back to a kind of a fairly miserable band. I say this, but this was a band that was put together by Frank Sano.
Ah,
and
enough said.
Yeah, well, he still carries a gun, doesn't he? He used to be a policeman, and boy, I'm going to get into trouble with this. Anyway, it was called the Paradise Hotel Band, and I played clarinet in the thing. Now here we go. Okay, this is the you'll enjoy this story. In Wilmington, there's a place called the Red Vest Pizza. There was. It's now changed to the Red West Pizza because they were so cheap that they didn't want to do anything but change one letter. So
that's an odd name.
Yeah, and we got a band to put in there. I was co-leader on that one, and we actually had two bands. There were a band Friday and Saturday night, so we had a band, and they were both under the name, which I'm sorry to say I came up with, Wilmington's Greatest Jazz Band. It was safe.
Well, it was true too.
If Lawson Haggart can do the world's greatest jazz band, I figured Wilmington was very safe. Anyway, so we played there with different things. I played different instruments. I played piano and banjo, and it included people like Dan Comans and Hal Smith and Vinnie Armstrong and a bunch of other pretty marvelous players. Except that it wasn't really, people were not going out of their way to go listen to this band, okay? And but we played there quite a while. We played there for a substantial amount of time, doing both Friday and Saturday nights with the different bands. Well, it turns out that one of those nights, we're playing, and we see a guy that's coming into the place there, and he's talking to the guy who made the pizza and who fixed the drinks at the bar, and he's just kind of a very, very close talker. And we're playing, and I'm looking at that and thinking, that's a little strange. And as we're playing, I notice out of the corner of my eye that there's some cars pulling up in the parking lot. Oh, okay. They're police cars. They didn't have their lights going on or anything like that, but they're police cars. They came walking in with their shotguns down by their side, as if we didn't know that they're carrying guns, okay? And they jumped this guy. Well, it turns out he was robbing the place, robbing it while we were playing Dixieland music. And the guy who was behind the bar there, he was an old Navy man, and he had the presence of mind to press the button and keep the guy occupied until the police got there. And so they jumped on him, and they pulled him out, getting him out into the parking lot. And we realized, oh man, we got to see a little bit more of this. So we went out there, and they had opened up his car. He had an arsenal of at least about 10 rifles and handguns in his trunk. And so we thought, oh my golly, this guy was serious, you know. And so we went back in and eventually started playing again. It does shake you up a little bit.
Yeah, in my mind's eye, I'm imagining like the drummer catching things when they're wrestling him to the ground.
Well, it's real life, you know. The thing was that for that particular instance, I was playing tuba, and you've heard of that. Yeah, it's a big instrument made out of really, really thin metal. And Hal Smith was playing drums. And so we get back on the bandstand, and Hal is kind of unnerved about this whole thing. And I said, Hal, they seem to have it under control. Are you okay? And he says, well, I just thought of the fact that if he started shooting, my drums are not going to stop any bullets. He says, I mean, at least you had something to hide behind. I said, yeah, but the metal that this tuba is made out of is paper thin. It's not going to do any better. we're gonna both do it. So Coleman turns around to us and he says, well, I think we better start playing again. Do you guys have any suggestions on what you'd like to play? And being of great presence of mind, of course, I said, well, how about the Louis Armstrong recording of Drop That Sack? So I was playing soprano saxophone in a band called the GNU Review, GNU. That was put together by Ted Thomas, who is Frank Thomas's son. Frank Thomas played piano in the Firehouse Five, and he also played occasionally in this band, as did Ward Kimball, who played suitcase drums. Paul Woltz, great trombone player named Dave Kennedy, some of you might remember him. Then to counter that, I played with another horrible, horrible band that was put together by a urologist. For some reason, a lot of doctors like to play Dixieland, so they did that. This, to give you an idea of the kind of comedy that the urologist would do on stage, the name of the band was the Oversextet. Yeah, that's the reaction. That's the reaction. And Dr. Hart, Joe Hart, he was the urologist, and he drove a car. The license plate only had 4 letters on it that said PPMD.
Ah.
And that's generous, what you're saying. Okay. Then I decided I wanted to go to New Orleans. And I was going to drive to New Orleans. And so I know I'd be going through Phoenix. And I said, I called up Dick Knutson, who had a band called the Desert City Six. And I said, Dick, I'm coming through Phoenix. Can I stay with you for a night? And, we can schmooze and everything else. And he said, so you're going to New Orleans? I said, yeah. He says, how would you feel about going to Europe? And I, okay, New Orleans, Europe, it's about the same. So I said, sure, I'll do that with you. And so I spent about 4 months going back and forth, flying or driving to Phoenix to play with the Desert City Six, which included a lot of good players, and they had gigs. And so I played for a lot of gigs on that thing, and I played cornet with them, a little bit of alto sax, I guess. And strangely enough, the I actually learned to scuba dive in the desert because he had a swimming pool. And I thought, okay, we're not doing anything during the day. So I said, I see you got scuba diving stuff here. And he says, yeah, would you like to learn to scuba dive? So I did. And it was a lot of fun. We had 2 weeks in Europe. And one of the things that I found in Europe, I thought, wow, there's a lot of stuff. Europe has, or used to have, sort of yard sales and swap meets and stuff like that. And I remember swap meet that I found something in Belgium, and it was something that I looked at, and it was this wonderful Black Forest carved candy dish, and it had a music box in it. And so I looked at it and I thought, okay, this it had indications on the tag that this thing was a 1920s type of music box thing. And I thought, oh, well, this will be very, very cool. Maybe it's something I know, and it actually is something that we're all familiar with. And so I bought the thing, and I get a kick out of those types of things, you know, that translate across the pond, and people are interested in them. And so here's one of these things. It's a beautiful piece of see, it's a candy dish, you know. And so when I got the thing, and I got it, and it didn't really work very well, so I had to redo the mechanism for the thing, and found out that it plays If You Knew Susie Like I Knew Susie. And I was really, really happy until I listened to it.
It sure doesn't belong to the urologist. I just thought with all the tinkling going on.
Well, apparently that's the way Germans enjoy, you know, that kind of music. I hope you could hear that okay. That was, because why should I suffer?
I'm regaled.
Okay. Roger Jamison was a trombone player who fancied himself as a Kid Ory type.
Yes.
And he used to get a lot of jobs, and he had a band called the New Orleanians, and he used to hire me for a clarinet. And I played a number of things, which gave me an opportunity to play with a couple of people that I really enjoyed playing with. Clara Bryant on trumpet, who did a great Louis Armstrong imitation. She was just marvelous. And then a trombone player named Streamline Ewing, you know, old black gentleman who just was absolutely a knockout to me. Loved doing those kind of things. Then there was a trombone player that you might remember, a guy named Chuck Anderson.
Nah.
Yeah. And he had a Dixieland brunch trio in the Embassy Suites in Arcadia. And I played banjo, Les Benedict played tuba. And we did that for quite a few years.
I actually subbed for Les on that a couple of times.
And
it was some great fun. And
Hey.
Chuck always made sure that we would play Saints in case somebody wanted to hear it.
even if that person wasn't there.
Yep. That was his line. Let's play this in case somebody wants to hear it.
That's it. So I played reeds in the Jazz and Babies Jazz Band when Dave Dolson finally decided to bail on that and move up to Montana. There was a band that I put into a festival called Captain Larry's Whiz Band. I played cornet and alto sax on that thing. It starred Evan Christopher, Ted Thomas, Vic Loring, Steve Resnick, and Ray Cadd. And it was this was about 1991, and it was notable because I did Willie the Weeper as a rap tune in it, and I'm really ashamed of that now. Rosie McCarg had a jazz band that he played with, different people in it, but he was around for decades in Los Angeles. And I played bass saxophone in that group, along with Dick Miller and Keith Elliott, trombone player with this, whatever band that I'm playing with now.
Titanic.
Titanic, that's it, yes. And that was a lot of fun because Rosie McCarg goes all the way back to the 1920s, and his stories and his playing and everything else was just wonderful. I played with Johnny Crawford's bands. Now I say bands because we did a whole bunch of trios, quintets, all sorts of things before he finally got into the band reading music and doing hot swing numbers. And it was a lot of fun. It was some different venues that the venues themselves were the fun. We did all sorts of costumer guild shows and things like that.
High-end Hollywood stuff.
High-end Hollywood, very well put. So it was an interesting stint with Johnny. Johnny is a great guy. I understand that he's going through some very miserable health things at the moment, but Johnny was always very, very nice to me, and he was just a great person. And he when I was in the hospital, he was the only one who actually called me up and talked to me on the phone. So marvelous player. I mean, marvelous singer, and he got the jobs for the group. So there were lots of times where I was only a sideman in that group. But nonetheless, the things that he got made me feel like, wow, this is pretty fancy. This is fancy schmancy stuff. And I was very happy to be a sideman. And even so, there were lots of people in the orchestras that would treat us side people. They got to know us, like John Reynolds and different people like Corey Jim. And they got to know us as kind of little minor stars, so we had fans. And, that reminds me. Here's one of my fans.
Rusty did that band also, right?
Okay, yes. This is my, I like this because it is an example of corporate humor. Now, when was the last time you saw anything humorous from a corporation?
On purpose, you mean?
Pardon?
You mean on purpose?
Yes. Yeah. Lots of accidents. But this is a band. This is a fan. This is one of my biggest fans from the 1920s, and it's made by the General Electric Company. And so you can't really see it very well. On the medallion here, it says GE. And then the model of this 1920s fan is the model is the Whiz, WHIZ. So it's gee whiz. And I thought, well, that's great. You're never going to see that kind of humor trying to sell a product now. So anyway, I thought I'd bring that out just for no reason at all, except to give you guys a little bit of this. This is a fan dance.
Ah.
Uh-huh. Okay. We're cooking with gas now. Okay. Dean Mora's band actually was an offshoot of Johnny Crawford's band. They like playing different styles, and so Dean decided he wanted to put together a band on that. And he put together a band that played the swing dancing jazz camp type of things that they did at the Hollywood Palladium. And at one time, the band, which was normally about 12 people, was augmented to 16 people, which made it roughly about the same size as a regular stage band. But we're playing in the Hollywood Palladium, and we're playing for all of these dancers. And it was with a gentleman who invented the shim sham shimmy in the 19.
Oh,
He invented it in when was this? 1927. A guy named Leonard Reed, and the shim sham shimmy is basically like a jazz line dance. So everyone's doing the same thing facing one way. And here I am playing drums in this 16-piece band on the same stage that Benny Goodman and all these other big bands from the 30s and 40s played. And I'm watching over 1,000 kids all doing this stuff at the same time. And I'm thinking, this is as close to Benny Goodman as I'm ever going to get. This is what he was doing on a regular basis all through his touring throughout the 30s and the 40s. And that was a thrill, you know. I mean, you don't get to see that very often. And Dean had actually another band. It was called the California Poppies, and that was a 1920s version. It was cut down. It was about an 8-piece band that played nothing but 1920s music, and that was concurrent with this, but it's still another band. Okay, I was in the first iteration of the Titanic Jazz Band, playing piano, and eventually I ended up playing reeds, and now if we ever get back to the San Diego Jazz Festival, I'll continue playing drums with them. The original people on that band, it was put together by John Isaacson, the soprano sax player, John Reynolds, Ray Cadd, Dan Comans, Keith Elliott, and myself. I played 2 stints. These are the 2 stints right here.
ah,
Yeah, they're kind of going around. 2 stints with the Night Blooming Jazzmen on piano and reeds. That's all I'm going to say about that. There was a banjo player, guitar player, drummer named Dwight Kennedy, who did booking like you wouldn't believe. This gentleman was
AAA bands.
king of the bookers, and he put in bands everywhere. And he had a group that was called Lay Jazz Hot, including Phil Krozak and Corey Jim, and I played alto saxophone and trombone in it. And it was quite astoundingly amazing, the jobs he would get.
Isn't he the guy who sent you to that high school graduation party?
No,
Oh, I thought that was one of John's.
that was one of John Hancock's, yes. Let's not speak ill of the dead. He is dead, isn't he?
Well, God, me.
Well, let's speak ill of him anyway. Okay. Dwight also put together a group that played out at Universal Studios Hollywood. It was called The Sting, as in the movie The Sting Swing Band. That also featured Corey Jim and Phil Krozak, Nick Scarmatt, who's now playing drums with the Night Blooming Jazzmen. And that's where I first met Ginger Polly.
Oh,
She was dressed up as Betty Boop, and she'd come out where the band was playing, and she'd do these wonderful, marvelous dances. And it's kind of a shame that people like that, Banu and Ginger, are marvelous, marvelous dancers. And you now, when I say now, I mean pre-pandemic, you never got to see them dance. You know, they were mostly doing singing, and it was so fun to see Ginger as Betty Boop doing all of these drag type of dances all over the place while the band is playing. So that was a lot of fun. Oh, that reminds me. There's a little story that has nothing to do with that, but there was a famous German kazoo player named Heit und Sieg.
oh,
Here we go. He played a regular kazoo. Oh boy, and they pay me for that. So, but he wanted something more spectacular, and so he developed this.
Yes.
So this thing here is der Übergesund, as they say in German. Now, this is the actual instrument, with one major exception. The Gesund that he built was originally painted. You see, this is brass here. But unfortunately, Wright used a paint that he was allergic to. And he would sneeze violently every time he played it. So he'd play and then sneeze. But eventually, the audience started to get into it, and they would actually call him to play and sneeze. Well, for years, his technique was known through Germany. And to this day, when somebody sneezes, they invoke his name and cry out, Gesund, Wright.
Really?
Okay, where am I here? Oh, here we are. Dwight Kennedy's Dixie Kings. This was a nice little group, and a lot of these groups I've recorded with. I don't know where you can ever find these recordings, but some of these things with the bands are on YouTube, and a lot of them were being sold through Stomp Off, but I don't have any knowledge about that stuff now. Dwight Kennedy had a group called the Dixie Kings with Corey Jim, Ray Cadd, Ray Templin, and Keith Elliott, and I played clarinet with that. Okay, we got now Ted Duplant. Ted Duplant put together a band that was going to be a recording band for Stomp Off. And he did a series of records for Stomp Off that lasted the total amount of time that we spent with this group, even though it didn't play gigs. It was still together for about 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. We'd go back east, go to the Bay Area and record all of these records. And it had marvelous people like John Otto on reeds along with me, and Leon Oakley. And I played tenor and alto sax and clarinet in that group, as well as ocarina. Okay, Palm Springs Yacht Club. Now there was a group.
I didn't realize you were in that.
I was in it because Ray Templin, it started out as a trio with John Reynolds, Westy Westenhofer, and Ray Templin. And Ray decided he wanted to go full-time over at Disneyland because he needed the money. So that left a gap there. So they called me in and said, can you play instruments, all of your instruments? I ended up playing the reeds, the bass saxophone, the xylophone, and the ocarina, and a bunch of other crap. That was with Matt Johnson on the drums, marvelous player, John Reynolds and Westy. And we ended up, I stayed with them for, maybe a little less than a year. But during that time, we did a very fun situation, a Steve Allen special called What Have We Got to Sing About in Los Angeles? And we played tunes that had all the different suburbs of Los Angeles in them, home in Pasadena, Long Beach, all these different things, you know. And we did a special on TV done by a guy that was in the KCBS news department who didn't know how to put on a musical. And that's one of the things that was fun. I played piano in Mark Tortorici's swing band. Mark is no longer with us, but he was an excellent player and a fun guy. Miss him. There's a group called the Swing Stations, and I for quite a while. It's Jim Ziegler's group. He was on trumpet, and that included Westy and Phil Krozak, and I played drums in it. There was a group put together by an unbelievably good banjo player named Tom Liston, and it's called the Sultans of Dixie. And so he put this band together, and it ended up being every year the band that would play out at the Los Angeles County Fair in Pomona. I played soprano sax in it, and they had people like John Brand, Pat Aranda, and I think this guy, Dan Zeilinger, I think he played with us. And so we did that for forever. And
Fun gig.
pardon?
That was a fun gig.
Thank you. And because of that, I think that was kind of the forerunner of a little jug band that I put together for a festival. That was just a one-off thing, so it doesn't qualify for this list. But Dan Zeilinger was also involved in that thing. You remember the jug band?
I have pictures.
Oh no, okay. Because I think on one of the people that did one of these interviews, they didn't know who was responsible for that, and that was I. Yeah.
Yes, that was Hal Grudy and Keith Elliott.
Yes.
And myself and yourself. And I'm leaving out somebody, I think. Big Cat.
And Keith Elliott used to play the jug in that band. It was truly a jug band, and so I was always inspired by the way that Keith played the jug, and I found in my travels
Ta-da.
a jug.
A little brown jug.
This is a little brown jug, but it's not only a little brown jug, it also accompanies yourself like this.
Obviously, it's not made in Germany.
Thank you. I can hear the applause right now.
I'm just waiting for the ASCAP fees to come knocking at the door.
They would never know what tune I was playing. John Gill put together a band that he wanted to do for a long time called the Yerba Buena Stompers. It was basically Lou Waters' band. And John brought in some marvelous players. The original players were Leon Oakley, Duke Heitker, Pete Clute, who was Turk Murphy's original, not original, but one of his early piano players, Clint Baker, Ray Cadd, Tom Bartlett, and we had a ball doing some recordings for Stomp Off and playing some festivals, including the San Diego Festival. When I moved back east, I played in the last 3 years of the Buck Creek Jazz Band, doing piano mostly, a little bit of banjo. But that was Jim Ritter's group, and they were ready to retire, and they said we're doing this for just another couple of years, and then that's it. And they didn't have a piano player, so I did that with them. There was
They said, "Won't you come to the grave with us?"
I've been there. Been there, done that. There's a group put together by Richard Halpern, and he had a group that he called the Blue Serenaders. Randy Woltz was the musical director for that thing, and we went through the quite a few years working at the Cicada Club, and I played drums with them. The Reynolds Brothers Rhythm Rascals, I played alto sax with that. That included a person that you may have heard of, a gal named Katie Cavera.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you guys at the LAX festival.
Just recently?
Yes, as recently as it was.
You got to reset.
At the very last iteration.
Yes. There's a group called the John Reynolds Trio. John wanted to go out with a trio, and I played clarinet and saxophone on that, and John played guitar. Katie Cavera played the string bass on the thing. And actually, if you go to YouTube, you can look it up and see a couple of, I think there's 3 little videos of us playing.
Yes, you did After You've Gone, and I can't really think of what the others were.
And then Mike Olson's South Burgundy Street Jazz Band, where I played banjo. And that included Corey Jim, Steve Tyler, Randy Woltz, CJ Sams, and we did the Pismo Beach Festival on that thing, and some other things. So it lasted for longer than 2 months, and I was the regular member on the thing there. I really do have to say that the name of the group was the South Burgundy Street Jazz Band. And if you've been around a while, you know that lots of bands decided they really wanted to name their band after a street. Now, Mr. Zeilinger here, he was involved in the 10th Avenue Jazz Band. Again, yes. That's named after a street. And so there was a time when I thought, you know, I kind of like that, but I couldn't find anything that was really exceptional in terms of being able to find a street name. So, but I'll stay on the lookout just in case I found something. And at one time, this did come up here, and
oh, I thought you were going to talk about the Fink Street 5.
Well, that wasn't that. There you go. But that wasn't mine. But this one here is a you know, an example of what might have been. You know, however, once I got this, then I realized, well, I think I can do better, and so I have put that aside in favor of this, which I really like as a band name.
Ah,
yeah.
It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
So that
go ahead, you finish that joke.
I don't do head jokes. I was with Ginger and her Hoosier Daddies for a considerable amount of time, quite a few years. I was playing reeds. That's Ginger Polly, which I told you about. She was the gal who did Betty Boop at the Universal Studios. I played reeds with Dave Stuckey's Hot House Gang, which includes Corey Jim in it and a lot of other people now that they don't use me. Well, actually, they're not using them either. I played with a lovely group that was music leader was Vinnie Armstrong, and it was the Lindy Sisters. I don't know if any of you have ever seen them, but the Lindy Sisters were made up of 3 gals doing the Andrews Sisters type of things. They were located out in Glendora, and they used to do all sorts of jobs. And they did a marvelous job of doing that kind of music. The bass player, Charlie Warren, who used to play out at Disneyland, called me up one time and said, hey, why don't we get Doug Maddox to play guitar and I'll play string bass and you can play piano and we can have a little piano trio. And eventually we decided to call it Jazz Souffle. And that was, unfortunately, Charlie Warren had a hand problem, one of these carpal tunnel things that just put him out of commission. But we played different gigs and we lasted for a little while. So we lasted for about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, something like that. You can see us on YouTube if you just look for Jazz Souffle, and we have some about 4 or 5 demo tapes there, very short. Barry Anthony, the late Barry Anthony, who is a marvelous trumpet player and a very, very outgoing person. He had a group in which I played piano, reeds, and drums at different times called Barry Anthony's Wailers. They called them that because they had a steady gig at the Whale and Ale in San Pedro. And most recently, I played banjo with the Dixie Delics, which is a group that's been around for many, many years, but I played with them for about 2 years, I think. So all of those, there you have it. That's about, that's 54 bands in 57 years. Oh, that reminds me. I have, this thing is so cute. As I was looking through all my other visual aids here, I ran across it. It was a lovely little gimmick that I used to do. I used to play novelty stuff. I know that's going to surprise you, Dan, but I like novelty stuff.
No.
Yeah, because I'm not serious about this music, contrary to what some people think.
No. Yes.
Yeah. But this was a little gimmick that I used to do a solo on, and the tune was Auntie Skinner's Chicken Dinner. And so I would do this solo where I'd take breaks and then do this little guy here. And this is a 1920s version. It's a pressed tin type of thing. And it sounds like this. I didn't say I was a good soloist on it, but I did introduce it as Auntie Skinner's Pollo Loco, Cockadoodle, Chicken Flickin' Clickin' Pickin' Clucker.
That's easy for you to say.
There's a number of people that have offered me, talking about seriousness. I want to thank a bunch of people that gave me the gigs. As you know, I said this in the first thing that we did. I'm a sideman. And with the exception of 2 jobs in my entire life, I always got called for gigs. Never went as a leader, except for those 2. And so I was at the mercy of all sorts of people. A lot of people would call me for a gig or 2, but there were certain people that I'd like to just kind of thank because they got me the gigs and they had to put up with me. And this little list is Lance Brown, Jeff Beaumont, Dan Barrett, Stan Chapman, Hal Smith, Johnny Crawford, Dean Mora, Dwight Kennedy, Tom Liston, and Corey Jim. Those were all people that continued to call me, and I don't know why. But
you want me to ask?
No. I know that's a rhetorical question. I know the answer. But what they would do is continue to call me because they knew what I could do, and they'd call me in spite of myself. And I basically was able to make a living playing this kind of music because of them. So I'm very grateful to them, and I just wanted to let you know. So the other thing was that for the most part, these people all hired the best. And so we had a great foundation of good music. And that's the reason that you take this music seriously. Because, it's easy for people who are mediocre players to make playing mediocre sound easy. So anyway, that's pretty much it for me, except for one more thing. And I've got to get my little thing here. Okay. This is where you normally ask if I have anything that I want to sell. I have something that I want to sell, but it's not ready yet. It's in the works. Okay. And it's I'm writing a book. So if any of you feel that you might be interested in a book written by Larry Wright,
the guy who plays drums in New York?
That's it. That's the one. You just send me an email that says that when this thing, if and when the thing ever comes out, you'd be interested in a copy of the thing, and then we can get together and get you a copy of it. So right now, this is where, should I be doing this, Dan?
Sure.
Oh, okay. This is the email. You send something to me and say, when this thing is ready, please contact me, and we will talk and find out if this is going to be something that's still worth my interest. And so that is.
Can you tell us the nature of this literature work? Is it biographical? Is it fictional? Is it a dictionary?
It's autobiographical, kind of emphasizing a lot of the famous people that I've been involved with.
Ooh, a tell-all.
No, tell none.
I don't know enough nuns to make a difference anyway.
So this is 16300 alto, ALTO, at gmail.com. And if you just send me an email saying, I'm interested, there's no obligation, and you can send information about it to me later on when it's out, and then I'll decide whether I want to spend $2 on it.
Well, I just think that's dandy.
The sincerity is dripping on me.
Well, that's just because I need to use the restroom.
Okay. Well, I can see that you're ready to go. Okay. So.
Thank you again, Mr. Wright. And I think John Brand expects us to have one more, but
I don't care what John Brand says. I'm going to do what Mama don't allow in Newhow.
No banjo playing around here.
Well, I wanted to get this list out of the way. I felt like I had the dry heaves, and I needed to, finish that off. I don't like having something that's unfinished like that. So
I think it's terrific. But we were going to try and find some time in the near future to maybe talk about your inventor side.
I purposefully decided not to get involved with that for this one.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon then. Give Mary Helen a kiss for me. Location of your choice. And we'll see you guys the next time.
Thank you for watching Trad Jazz Today. Dan posts new interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure to check out the archive of past shows, and please give us a thumbs up when you subscribe to the channel. Bye.